want my baby to have your eyes. I'm going against my own advice. Should I do New York? I can't decide. Fashion week.
It's Welcome Dishes, and I'm finna make this ultimate seafood mac and cheese. Now, before I get started, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. Grab your ingredients because we not just finna make it, we finna make this bussin'. Go ahead and start boiling your noodles for about 7 to 8 minutes, and then while they're boiling, you can grate your cheese. With the simplest kitchen tool, you'll be on your way to have grated cheese. Most people think they need that fancy grater, but this works just as well. At this point, you may be wondering, all right, so what cheese are we actually using in this ultimate seafood mac and cheese? I have cheddar cheese, Colby Jack, and smoked Gouda cheese. For the cheese, I did not use all of it. I put some cheese to the side, just about that much, just because I wanted, that top layer to have extra cheese on the top. Once my cheese was done, I moved on to cooking the meat. I started with the crab meat. This is a large can sold at Publix. I used about half of it because later I made crab cakes with the other half, and I'll show y'all that recipe in another video. But with the crab meat itself, I went ahead and started seasoning it. So I'm using smoked paprika, garlic, onion powder, and a Cajun season. And I'm just going to stir it up in the bowl. This is actually ready to serve and ready to eat. But for me, it can't always have some juice in it, and that taste of the crab and its juice could overpower the actual dish. I started heating that pan up because I do want to cook this down and I want to investigate. You're probably wondering, why did she say investigate the meat? It's because in this can, there's usually some pieces of shell, crab claw, and when people eat in your dish, they ain't trying to break a tooth. So you need to take a look at it, and you don't want that. So I just cooked it for about 5 minutes, took it out the pan, set it to the side, and moved on to the shrimp and the lobster. So for the shrimp and the lobster, I did the same thing. I'm going to season this in a separate bowl. I'm going to use my fork, and I'm just going to turn it. Now, one thing I will say for the shrimp and the lobster, the extra seasoning that I used for this was smoked paprika. The smoked paprika doesn't really add a whole lot of flavor to it. I wanted to make sure that the seafood actually had that smoked paprika color. I did enough to get that red color onto the shrimp and the lobster. And like I said, we're just gonna do the same thing we did to the crab meat. We're gonna cook it. For the shrimp and the lobster, it may not be 5 minutes. It may be closer to about 10 minutes because this is actually raw seafood, and I want to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. I don't want to cook it too tough because it is going to cook some in the oven, but I want to cook it through so that it's essentially pink all over. I will taste these pieces, taste 1 or 2 shrimp and lobster just to make sure it tastes well. And I will say with the juice, from the shrimp and the lobster, I didn't want a lot of that into the seafood because you won't get an opportunity to taste the cheese when it actually combines. What I'm doing right now, I'm actually getting ready for the roux. I have butter, cornstarch, garlic paste, and I'm going to season it before I even put any of the milk or the heavy whipping cream into it. I'm going to season it and I'm going to cook it up. Now then I come in with that milk and that heavy whipping cream. Instead of using the spatula itself, I'm just going to take that whisk and start stirring this up and whisking it up. I know it looks like maybe some clumps of the butter and the cornstarch. Trust me, once you get this heat going and you start whisking it, it's going to be a smooth combination. Now, before I add the cheese, I'm starting to turn this pan down. I want the warmth from the milk and the heavy whipping cream to melt the cheese. Before I put the cheese in, I'm seasoning this with the smoked paprika and the garlic powder, and I actually taste it, make sure that tastes good. And then I'm slowly pouring in the cheese, and this is essentially making that cheese roux that when you cut into the macaroni and cheese, it has that gooey cheese filling in the inside. I'm going to continue to add in that cheese, continue to stir it up. I may add a little bit more seasoning because, like I said, at every stage of this, as I'm adding cheese, I have a separate bowl where I'm dumping some of this roux and I'm tasting it as I go. Once I get it to taste how I like it with the right combination of the cheese and the seasoning, I then just take everything that I cooked previously and I fold it into it. This step is important because you want to make sure you do not stir your mac and cheese. What you want to do is fold the ingredients into each other because stirring will actually rip your noodles and it won't have the desired look that you want. And trust, everybody can tell when noodles have been stirred. They're going to be talking about you at the cookout. Now that you have this mixed all in, get the cheese that you have put to the side, start grating that because you're going to make that on the top and it's going to cover the top of your mac and cheese. Once you actually have it covered, it's going to look delicious, but you're going to put this in the oven for about 35 to 45 minutes until the top is melted just the way you like it, and then you can enjoy. Thank you guys for watching. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel.